Back in the fall, I did a video using window clings for some home decor. Today I have a few more ideas, and you can get window clings at stores like the Dollar Tree or Walmart. The window clings at Walmart vary in price. This pack that I have is $1.98, and I found that the ones that have a little bit of glitter on them were more expensive, but some of the ones that didn't have any glitter on them were only 98 cents. So keep an eye out there if you're looking for some window clings. I also grabbed this charger from the Dollar Tree. I love how glittery it is, and this was just in the regular part of Dollar Tree, so it was just $1.25. And instead of hanging this charger, I bought one of the art stands that they have at the Dollar Tree to display it that way. I also dug around in my stash and I grabbed a few different types of ribbons so that I can really give this a good embellishment. Now to get started, I wanted to lay out my window clings first, and because this charger has glitter on it, the window clings don't stick on their own. I think if you had one of the chargers that just had a smooth finish, you probably could just lay the window clings down and they would stay in place for you. But because, like I said, this has some texture on it, they weren't staying in place. Once I had all of my window clings on in a pattern that I liked, I just used my phone to take a picture so that I could remember where I needed to place all of them. I want to use some Mod Podge to adhere these window clings down, and it doesn't matter what finish you use, if it's glossy or matte, because you're not going to see it anyway. Now, one thing you have to be careful about with these window clings is because the background on these tends to be pretty transparent. If you put too much of the Mod Podge all over the back side of it, it takes a really long time for that Mod Podge to dry, and if it's too thick, it never really gets clear enough. I tried doing this back in the fall when I was doing some other window cling crafts, and I had applied Mod Podge all over the backside of the window cling, and it never really dried right. I didn't care for how it turned out, so that's why I never showed it in a video. So I thought to remedy that, to make this a little bit nicer looking, on the parts of the window cling that are opaque, so in that instance it was everywhere that there was a letter, I just applied a little bit of Mod Podge. So that way you weren't seeing these big white patches through the background on it. So I would say just be careful when you're doing that. Make sure you're doing a pretty thin coat. Don't clump up the Mod Podge anywhere. And you can see on these trees, I'm trying to just stick where the trees are, not so much where the background is. Now, the one good thing about this craft in particular, because it is snow themed, if a little bit of that white shows, I think it just blends in. It kind of makes it look like snow, so it worked out okay for this. And I also think the texture of the charger, the glitter on there, helped with this too. If there was a little bit of Mod Podge showing, it kind of blended into the glitter. So like I said, just be mindful when you're putting down your window clings that you're just adding the Mod Podge on the solid parts so that you don't see it and you don't have to wait forever for it to dry. I let this dry for a good while, and then I checked on it and I felt like everything was adhered down pretty well. So I didn't go back over and seal the whole thing with Mod Podge, but that's something you could do if you feel like you didn't quite get them stuck down enough, if you're afraid they're going to start lifting. Once it's dried enough that everything's going to stay in place, you could give the whole thing a coat with Mod Podge just to seal those edges down. If you've been hanging out with me for a while, you probably already know that one of my favorite types of bows to make is the scrappy bow. And I wanted to make one on this charger also, but I wanted to give you a different example of it. So normally whenever I create a scrappy bow, I gather up a bunch of ribbons in a few different colors that go along with the project that I'm doing. But this time I actually gathered up ribbons and trims only in white, because I wanted to show you how you could do it all in one color. And if you have a lot of different textures of ribbons and trims, it gives it a really cool look. So if you've never made a scrappy bow before, you probably saw that I laid my ribbon out on my charger where I wanted it to be so that I could get an idea of how wide I wanted my bow. And then I just started going through with each of the ribbons and trims that I had on hand, and I cut 2 pieces of each of the ribbons. And you'll see here as I keep cutting all of my ribbons that they vary in the width as well as the texture. So that's what makes a really cool scrappy bows. If you have ribbons that are wide and some that are narrow, and then you have some that have a different texture. You can see I'm using lace too, not just ribbons. So anything you have on hand, this is a great way to use up some of the things that you've been holding on to, because if you're like me, you probably have a big stash of ribbons and trims that you need to work your way through, and this is a great way to use a lot of those up. Once I had all of my ribbons cut down to size, on the ribbons that were more narrow, I just cut each end at an angle, and then on some of the wider ribbons, I wanted to dovetail those, so I just folded it in half and I cut it on an angle from the outside to the inside. Now this isn't necessary, but I do like how the points look on the scrappy bows whenever you take the time to do this, but on some of the ribbons it just didn't make any sense to do that. So like on the lace pieces, it didn't really make sense to cut those at an angle, and I had a bigger piece of trim with like flowers on it and it didn't make sense to do anything. So just use your judgment as to what you need to do for each of your ribbons. After my ribbons were all prepped, then I could start putting my bow together. It's a little hard to see, but I laid a piece of that sheer ribbon down, and then I'm starting with the narrower pieces of ribbon and I'm just laying them out in an X pattern. So now you can see that I'm just starting with the narrow trims and ribbons and I'm working my way to the wider pieces, and I just keep laying them in an X on top of that ribbon that I had laid down vertically. Now, one tip I have is the piece that you're going to use to tie all of this together should be a little bit smaller and it should be pretty flexible. So I wouldn't recommend using a wired ribbon here. The sheer ribbon that I have is pretty flimsy and there's no wire in it, so it was easy to use. If none of your ribbons are like that, just use a piece of jute twine, or you probably could even use a pipe cleaner here. So after my ribbons were all laid down, then I just gathered them up in the center and I used that ribbon to tie it all together. The other thing I love about these scrappy bows is you don't really have to mess with them. You know, when you're doing like the loopy bows, you really have to start playing around, pulling those loops apart and everything, and it seems like it's a never-ending job. But with these scrappy bows, there's not much to do as far as fluffing the bow out goes, so it's a lot less stress and headache for me. The only thing that I do is make sure that I pull all the tails apart, and then if there's any pieces that seem just a bit too long, I go through and give those a little trim. Now again, because this charger has a glitter finish to it, there's a lot of texture there. So I felt confident that the hot glue would work in this situation. But I know on some of the other chargers from the Dollar Tree that have a smoother finish, you might want to add a little E6000 when you're gluing down your bow. As a last touch for my charger, I'm just using some of this vase filler. It's just little styrofoam balls that have white or silver glitter on them. I added some to the center of my bow, and then I added a few around the plate also, just to make it look like little snowballs. I wanted to create a quick and easy centerpiece, so from the Dollar Tree Plus section, I grabbed one of these white ceramic vases for $5. You probably could find something similar at a thrift store. I'm also going to be using one of the packs of window clings from Walmart, and this one doesn't have any glitter on it, so this one was only 98 cents. In addition to the window clings, I'm also going to be using 2 of the mini Christmas trees from the Dollar Tree. I'll be sticking both of these Christmas trees into the vase, so I didn't need the little tree stands that came with them, and that cap where the tree stand goes into, I also didn't need on the tree, so I was able to just throw those away. Let me know in the comments if you have any good ideas of ways to use those pieces from the tree stands, because I feel like I use these trees a lot, but I never use the pieces that come with them. I'm always putting the trees into something else. To get started on fluffing out my trees, I was pulling all of the branches out to the side and towards me, and I was leaving one side flat because I'm going to put both of these trees together to make them more full, because you can see they're a little sparse. I mean, they are from the Dollar Tree. They're only $1.25. So once I had both of my trees fluffed out and I had a flat side on each one, I was able to just put the two flat sides together, and I used a few zip ties along that center rod to attach them together. If you have green zip ties, these would probably blend right in. Mine didn't stick out too bad. I didn't feel like I needed to cover them up. But if you can see yours, like if you get one of the trees that's really sparse and you can see those zip ties through it, just use some of those garland ties that you can get and wrap one of those around it and it should blend right in. But I was able to hide mine with some of the branches. You can decorate your tree however you'd like. I'm keeping mine simple because I have so much of this vase filler. I thought I would just hot glue these little balls everywhere. They look like ornaments. They look like snowballs. I think they fit the bill. Now, it would probably be a lot easier to decorate this tree once it's already in the vase, but it was hard for me to get both pieces together in the camera, so that you could see it all together. So for filming purposes, I'm decorating my tree ahead of time. But like I said, if you're not hot gluing ornaments on like I am, it would probably be easier to decorate after you already have it in the vase. Now to decorate the vase, this is really simple. Because of the shiny finish on this vase, I was able to add the window clings just like you would on a window, and they stick themselves. Now I chose not to use any kind of Mod Podge or adhesive to stick mine down because I want to be able to change this out. So if you know you're only going to use this for Christmas, go ahead and put some Mod Podge on the back of yours and give it a permanent finish. And then I would probably do another coat of the Mod Podge over top of everything to seal it in. But like I said, I want to be able to take these decals off after Christmas so that I can use this vase for something else. This worked out really good with this particular pack of window clings that I had. There were a lot of taller pieces that I was able to place around the vase, and they fit on pretty well. There was just one that was a little too big, so I had to trim just a little bit off the top. And then once I had all of those bigger main pieces in, I was able to go in with some of the smaller pieces that were in this pack to fill in the gaps. So that's another tip I have when you're picking out window clings for crafts. Look for ones that have a lot of different size pieces on them. So you can see I had all of these bigger pieces that are really cute. They're little kids dressed up in Christmas costumes. And then there were some little pieces of ornaments and presents and snowflakes that I could use to fill in the gaps. I also think this vase would work really well in a kitchen as a utensil holder. If you're looking to add a little bit of Christmas decor to your kitchen, that might be a fun idea too. Since I am turning this into a centerpiece, I needed to add some floral foam to the center of my vase. So I started with one big solid chunk that I hot glued down to the bottom. And then I filled in both sides with smaller pieces just so that it was nice and sturdy and it wouldn't wiggle around. And this is where I had trouble filming. I couldn't really fit everything into the camera, but you can see I just stuck my two Christmas trees right into that floral foam. My pap is one of the hardest people I have to buy for Christmas, and I always like to fix him up a snack basket. So from the Dollar Tree, I grabbed one of their foil pans, and I made sure that the pan I grabbed had a plastic lid, and then I also grabbed a bunch of snacks that I knew my pap would like. I want to show you how you can create a really cute snack basket and use the window clings to decorate it. I'm using a set from the Dollar Tree, and I specifically picked these out because of this part that says good tidings of comfort and joy, because what's more comforting than a big basket of snacks? I started by laying 2 sheets of tissue paper down into the bottom of the tray. I just scrunched the corners up a little bit so that it would fit better. And then I started adding in my snacks. Now, also keep this gift in mind if you're going to a function or a Christmas party where you have to take a gift. You could make this as big or as small as you needed to. For this particular one, I picked out 7 different snacks. And then with the cost of the tray also, 8 items at the Dollar Tree now equals $10. So I know a lot of us have like work parties and such that we need a $10 gift for. So I think this would make a really good idea. Everybody loves snacks. And if you know who you're giving it to, like I know I'm going to give mine to my pap, you can pick out the things that they like the most. I was inspired to put this together because a lot of you know I work full-time in a hair salon, and we have quite a few clients that will bring in something similar to this. You know, it's usually some kind of gift basket or tray, and they just load it with snacks, and it's for all of us to share, which we always really, really appreciate. We get really excited when we see those yummy treats. So keep that in mind too. If you have a dentist office or a doctor's office or a salon that you want to give the staff a fun gift, everybody loves snacks, so everybody is going to appreciate getting something like this. Once I had my tray all filled, I put the lid back on, and I just made a small gift tag. You could use a pre-made gift tag. I just already had some supplies on hand, so I just made one out of some cardstock, and then I tied on one of these little gnome ornaments from the Dollar Tree because the window clean pack I'm using has some gnomes on it, so I thought it would work really well together. Now the fun part starts. I can start decorating the top of this tray. I wanted to add my gift tag first. I'm just using a glue dot here. This isn't a permanent glue dot. It's a removable one because I want my pap to be able to reuse this tray. So that's why the window clings are a great option for this. I'm not sticking them down with any adhesive. I'm just letting them cling to the plastic like they would a window. And whenever he's done with his little snack tray, he can just take all of the window clings and that tag off and reuse this tray for something else. And you can really get creative here, add as many window clings as you'd like. Since mine had this big good tidings of comfort and joy on it, I wanted to make sure that that was the focus of mine. Thanks so much for coming to hang out with me again today. If you're in the U.S., have a happy and safe Thanksgiving. And to everyone, have a great week, and I'll talk to you in the next one.